is the moment we've all been waiting for the thousands in attendance and the millions watching around the world. Ladies and gentlemen, let's get ready to rumble!
All your feelings hurt when it get real. All of them fakes, so they ain't ready now. It be too hard, we getting lit, cause we speaking now. Fuck all the clowns, yeah, the ones who do it for the bite. Oh, we going now. All your feelings hurt when it get real. All of them fakes, so they ain't ready now. It be too hard, we getting lit, cause we speaking now. Fuck all the clowns, yeah, the ones who do it for the bite. Oh, we going now.
Fuck your feelings. Big chest back in the building. Like Brady boy, I stay winning. Chef Curry, range extended. Splash. Fuck your feelings. Debate all day, that's business. Either your ass, that's fitness. FYF got a hit list. Bitch, I'm the realest. Alpha male strong, that's illest. FYF gang, we will win this. Fuck the permission slip, bitches. Ayy, yo. Fuck your feelings. FYF gang, be the realest.
All your feelings hurt when it get real. All of them fakes, so they ain't ready now. It be too hard, we getting lit, cause we speaking now. Fuck all the clowns, yeah, the ones who do it for the bites. Oh, we going now. All your feelings hurt when it get real. All of them fakes, so they ain't ready now. It be too hard, we getting lit, cause we speaking now. Fuck all the clowns, yeah, the ones who do it for the bites. Oh, we going now.
The paper chase, hurdles and relays, like a track meet. Drug fiends, bitches, foreign whips. Now that's my back street, stay humble. Be most hated is the consequence of success. Fast money always slows up. Gotta learn to invest. My flow, mastered. Money, I stacked it. Enemies, caskets to women. I'm attractive to my haters, outlast them. Passport stamped it. Can fun and work on consignment. Come on, now that's a backflip. Principles you stand on. Wasted talent, sad song. Beach house 1.5, but the car dad said 260. God, obedience, Jesus, repentance. The marathon continues, and I'm strong to the finish.
All your feelings hurt when it get real. All of them fakes, so they ain't ready now. It be too hard, we getting lit, cause we speaking now. Fuck all the clowns, yeah, the ones who do it for the bite. Oh, we going now. All your feelings hurt when it get real. All of them fakes, so they ain't ready now. It be too hard, we getting lit, cause we speaking now. Fuck all the clowns, yeah, the ones who do it for the bite. Oh, we going now.
FYF, okay. Know what measure, remember them 3 letters come with pressure. Okay. We be steppers, man, can't stop, won't let up. Real debates, the haters gon' hate. That's what makes this special, it come with level. Yeah, this shit get better, no cap, new era. We got ammunition for the opposition and plenty witness, killing competition. Catch us late night on a panel cooking, but don't be fooled, this ain't your mama's kitchen. They say they don't, but they watch and listen, typing in the chat. You ain't got a lot to kick it. If you click the link, make sure you got permission, and don't forget, nigga, fuck your feelings.
All your feelings hurt when it get real. All of them fakes, so they ain't ready now. It be too hard, we getting lit, cause we speaking now. Fuck all the clowns, yeah, the ones who do it for the bite. Oh, we going now. All your feelings hurt when it get real. All of them fakes, so they ain't ready now. It be too hard, we getting lit, cause we speaking now. Fuck all the clowns, yeah, the ones who do it for the bite. Oh, we going now.
I know they ain't ready at all. I stay ready, time to ball. No referee, I got shots to call. Believe I'm the best, so I'm better than y'all. Fuck your feelings, you know that's law. Running it up, now we running it back. It's that full court pressure, don't cut no slack. Jamming to the max. Bank account still full of racks. For the competition, they done went missing. The champion's here, look how the ring glisten. It's honorable mention, don't ever forget it. It's FYF, don't care about the ticket. You know we with it, yeah. We gon' do whatever it takes. Fuck all the hate. FYF still going down. It's one of the greats.
All your feelings hurt when it get real. All of them fakes, so they ain't ready now. It be too hard, we getting lit, cause we speaking now. Fuck all the clowns, yeah, the ones who do it for the bites. Oh, we going now. All your feelings hurt when it get real. All of them fake, so they ain't ready, no. It be too hard, we get it lit, cause we speaking now. Fuck all the clowns, yeah, the ones who do it for the boys. All we going now, supporters, no fans. LVCM, babe, talking on real. Yankee hard, could be on the rear. Heart rate up, it's getting intense. All them people just speaking on nothing. Content clicks for the money. Hilarious, it be too funny. Debunking this shit, yeah, we run it. Cover it up, Lakers to Hornets. LeBron to Jordan, Blazers in Portland. We get it sorted, lights can afford it. Entertaining or boring, whatever the top, and we act accordingly. Break it down, piece by piece. Been at this for too long. No Elder Baruch is saying what he on. Lanes better stay gone. We get them all done. We get them all done. Yeah, we get them all done. All your feelings hard when it get real. All of them fake, so they ain't ready, no. It be too hard, we get it lit, cause we speaking now. Fuck all the clowns, yeah, the ones who do it for the boy. All we going now, all your feelings hard when it get real. All of them fake, so they ain't ready, no. It be too hard, we get it lit, cause we speaking now. Fuck all the clowns, yeah, the ones who do it for the boy. All we going now.
We're here today with YouTube sensation, legend of winning. A lot of you guys know he's been renowned for, his sports commentary. Even more recently, and we're going to talk about it today, some of the Manosphere and Red Pill content that he's been speaking on, which, again, has been controversial to some, not to me. I mean, I like the common sense approach, but, we're just going to start with the basics, man. I like to start with the basics, especially when we're talking about people. I first came across your content with regards to sports. No, but okay. I think the question that a lot of people don't know, or a lot of people wanted to ask, was how did you get here? How did you get into the sports sector as far as creating sports content, and how did you know that this was the lane you wanted to be in?
Well, the first piece of content I actually was producing was actually not sports. It was hip hop. Like back in the day before DJ Academics blew up, that was the first piece of content that I was producing. I pivoted to sports just because I knew it was something that I felt confident in and comfortable in talking about pretty frequently. I was working at Walmart, and I used to just spend hours talking about basketball over and over and over again. So I might as well, record this and upload it to the masses. So it was just something that I felt way more comfortable speaking about. Even at the time, the lane in which it's at right now wasn't there. It was still something I just felt comfortable and confident talking about. So that's the biggest reason why I went in that direction.
Now, when we talk about just sports, we're gonna take it back even before then. Let's go back. We're gonna go all the way back. We want to go we want to go back to 10-year-old low, 10-year-old legend of winning, man.
All right.
Because these are the things, because it's crazy how I think back. Some of the things that I was really thinking about when I was 10 that seemed unrealistic when I was maybe 18, then I find myself doing right now. Yeah. I don't know how things kind of always come back. Is there anything when you look back on your youth, man, as a young low, did you hoop? Were you a hooper? What are some of the things that kind of intrinsically got you invested and involved in the sports as you see it now?
Well, playing sports, the sport, ironic, I say this and people don't believe me because how big I am, but I played soccer by far the most sports, the most amount, especially when I was young, between the age of 7 and 10, 6 to 10. I was playing sports almost year round. I mean, I was playing soccer almost year round. I went on from soccer and then just casually playing, football, basketball, when at school, after school, stuff like that. Then when I was around 13, 14, I played football recreationally. So I was in a rec league on the south side of Atlanta, played football. Then I played football for my my school in my freshman year. And then after that, right after that, is actually the first time I've ever played basketball like at an establishment level, not just like playing pickup with somebody, you know what I'm saying? So I played basketball for basically just one season when I was in the 10th grade. And that right there actually got me hooked onto it, because in the other sports, I always felt as if like, you know, when I was a defender or goalie in soccer, I kind of felt like I was bound to like one or two responsibilities, and it was very, very constricting. And the same thing goes with like football. When I was on the O or defensive line or on the defensive end, I only had like a few responsibilities. And to be fair, that's why I think those team sports work the way that they do, because everybody has a very unique responsibility and you have to uphold that responsibility. Basketball, though, it was like the first time I felt like I could almost do anything. Like I even though I was like I played small forward, power forward, it wasn't as if like the only thing I was supposed to do was rebound. Or it wasn't the only thing I was supposed to do was pass, or the only thing I was supposed to do was defend. Like all of those things were supposed to be ingrained in the responsibility I had. So constantly I felt involved regardless of what was going on. And that's what really gravitated me towards basketball. And then ironically enough, this is all around the same time. Kobe and Kobe and the Lakers were in the finals in 2009, and Kobe was kind of describing to Pau Gasol how to run a pick and roll. And at the time, I didn't comprehend like what he was saying, but we was just so happened to be playing basketball on a Sunday and coming down, and we had like this dude who was very, very talented on our team. He was a ball handler, and my coach was telling me like, "Yo, set the screen to get him open." So I set the screen and I roll hard. He dumped it off to me. I laid it up, game-winning shot, fouled me, get to the free throw line, make the free throws, you know, et cetera, et cetera. But that was like the biggest moment of the entire season for me, because I basically won the game, a game-winning shot off of that. And then it hit for me, especially when my coach sat me down and explained to me, when you set the screen and you roll like that, it forces the defense to play a certain type of way. And then when he was explaining to me, it was like, bro, that's the same thing Kobe was saying. And so then it went even further where I was like, bro, even when I'm setting a screen, I'm still involved in the play, even though the ball isn't touching my hand. So all of those things got me even more invested into the game of basketball and started to understand the technicalities about it, to where like even to setting a screen a certain type of way and running off and rolling off of the screen are all pivotal aspects of how play should be ran. So that's what really, really got me into basketball, because I felt like it was much more detailed than I think a lot of people realize.
Yeah, that's facts right there. Because I could think back on I played all through high school and whatnot, and then when I think back on it, knowing what I know now, I didn't understand the game at all.
Yeah,
you know, I didn't understand the game at all, and I'm even thinking back, and you know, I'm talking about as even being a high schooler playing varsity. I'm really thinking back to I really didn't understand the game.
Yeah,
and so, man, it's crazy how you said that, because I think that plays a large role into one of the reasons why your sports commentary has, I would say, much more of a common sense approach.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think I might have disagreed on maybe one or a few of your takes, but you know, that's neither here or there. I'm just saying, but there is a level of common sense. There is a level of common sense to the takes that you have to appreciate right there. And that sometimes it stems from just having that basic understanding of the game, just like what you said. So with that knowledge right there, okay. So you have that background in sports,
mm-hmm.
and then obviously you said you started off in hip hop, and then you transitioned over to sports.
Yeah.
With over 50, I think you have over 50 million views on YouTube, probably across other platforms and in other YouTube channels, probably a lot more than that when you talk Twitter and just your peer-to-peer podcast, all that. But when did you feel like you went from being just a regular YouTuber to someone who has actually had some level of success at this, and you just much bigger than just your everyday YouTuber?
Much bigger. I don't know.
Nah. Don't be humble. No.
And I don't know if it's necessarily humble, just because I surround myself with people who are like even big, like much bigger than me. So I see them and I'm like, those are crazy. But I think a lot of it started transitioning when I made the decision to be more personality based, show my face a little bit more, because crazy enough, on my main channel, on the Legend of Winning channel, I don't show my face, and even to this day, I still don't show my face. It's just commentary over highlights or infographics. And so, yeah, I think there was always a disconnect from the audience to me because they never was able to see me, which I still think is fine. I think it helps them gravitate more to the information. But as soon as I made the transition to be more on camera, so people actually saw my face, which crazy enough has only been for like a year and a half, 2 years now. Is often as people like see me on camera now. This is not, I have not been doing this for that long. So I think that's when the transition really was like noticeable, because I was way more identifiable. And then even beyond my basketball takes on my second channel, even like you said, on Peer to Peer, which is the podcast, and then Playback, which is kind of the more opinionated version of me beyond sports, and then AMP videos. Like, I think that was when I was just way more identifiable, especially like me walking outside and like people saying, "Hey, yo, I see you, you know, da 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 da." So it was probably about 2 years ago. I think I was still doing very, very well up until that point, but where it was like kind of like really hard to deny it. Yeah, probably it started beginning like a year and a half, 2 years ago.
That man, that's what I said. You gotta understand your own growth and where you came from, how you got to where you are now, and then obviously you still growing, because now I've seen you on other growing podcasts. Obviously, Players Choice. I love what they're doing over there.
Yeah.
With the different types of debates and just NBA takes that they have on a lot of different topics over there. You have Playback and you have your peer to peer podcast. Now, when we talk about, let's start with Playback. Okay, the content over there. What is the angle with regards to that channel? Is it just sports? I mean, is it kind of all over the place? Like, where did you intend for that channel to go?
Playback is really just where me and my co-host or good friend of my agent, we just want to voice our opinion and give our perspective on certain aspects of things. It's not necessarily, it don't have to be particular sports. But there is a conversation, like an ongoing conversation on the internet that's happening right now. We're dealing with men and women in the relationships that they're in, I guess the manosphere, the red pill. But like those, it's just really our perspective on ongoing topics that is happening on the internet. So sometimes it may spill over into sports. We talked about LeBron's son and stuff like that, or sometimes it may spill over into relationships. But the key purpose of it is for people to just kind of hear a different perspective and hear our opinion on certain aspects of the internet that kind of goes back and forth or at least trendy. I guess trendy is a better word for it.
And that I'm glad you brought that up with agent, because I think a lot of people also want to know, how did that, because that pairing seems perfect. I mean, you guys kind of work seamlessly with one another. You play off one another very well. It works well, whether it's visually on camera or you just listening and you hear the audio. It sounds like you guys were kind of made to be partnered together. Regardless of what type of content you're doing. How did that pairing happen? How did you guys meet?
So crazy enough, it was sports though. He had a basketball podcast that he used to run a while ago, called AO Podcast, and he was running it with a few other YouTubers at the time, who were in the 2K space more so. And at the time, they needed a thumbnail. They needed a thumbnail, an ongoing thumbnail for what they were doing. So I decided to take it upon myself, because I was just a listener at that time. I decided to take it upon myself. I'll just make them a thumbnail and, make nothing much of it. And I made them a thumbnail. They liked it enough to at least use it for an episode or two. And so because of that, the transaction was, hey, we'll feature you on one of the podcasts. And, the story gets told differently from one person, but from the next. But I believe that I was a good enough guest to where they kept inviting me. But then their version of it is I just kept showing up, and they were like, we're not going to tell him to go anywhere. So that's how we got introduced to one another. And I think I was just opinionated and had enough to say about basketball to where they kind of kept me on, because everybody else didn't keep the same energy. And I think at the time it was respectful enough to where like I wasn't like, boisterous about it, but still can keep the conversation going. And then we kind of just pivot from that to having ongoing conversations off cam about YouTube and trying to figure things out with the algorithm and spending endless hours. Back then it wasn't Discord or StreamYard. Back then it was Skype. Spent endless hours on Skype just trying to figure things out. And I think that right there is what really gravitated us together, was just the constant dedication to trying to figure out how to do better on YouTube and how we can just speak about that through endless amount of hours. And then going from that to pivoting into like my own content and him doing his own content, occasionally being featured on his content, playing 2K from time to time. But I think a lot of it is just like endless hours of conversations of kind of just knowing how we talk, the cadence, and knowing when to stop, listen. And I mean, and to be fair enough as well, I think, like you said before, it's always nice to have somebody around you with like a common sense understanding of how the world works. Like you sitting here going back and forth, trying to debate core fundamental flaws, you know, of course, that may seem fun, but I don't think it would have breeded the relationship that we have right now.
Yeah, I appreciate Agent's content, man. Obviously, he's in a different lane as far as when he ventures off on his own, and because I found him when I saw his content. It was like you said, the 2K content. Looks like he's kind of went away from the 2K content more recently, but either way, man, you know, you guys got something good going on over there, regardless of what y'all talking about. And that takes me into some of the other content outside of sports. Mm-hmm. And I saw a recent clip, and when I saw this clip, this is when I said I wanted to interview you.
Okay.
And it wasn't because of your response per se as far as words, it was because of your reaction.
Okay.
Because it could have went one or two different ways.
Okay.
And I think this was when you were having a conversation with and I'm trying to remember his name. The Manosphere guy, starts with an S.
Sneeko?
Sneeko, yeah, Sneeko.
Okay.
Uh-huh. And this is when I said I have to interview you, because you guys were having a conversation. But what I saw was clipped up, so I didn't see the full conversation. But from what I saw, he said you were fat.
Yeah.
He said something to those lines. And then when I watched your response to it, you were just like, okay. Just like kept it moving. Just, you know, it is just like that's exactly how that's exactly how you're supposed to handle it.
Yeah.
Right. Like, and it seemed like he was really prying for a reaction. And it almost threw him off. It almost threw him off a bit that he didn't get the reaction out of you that most people would have came back with, who might be a bit insecure or whatnot. Tell us about that interaction right there, that conversation with him, how that came about, and why you decided to react in that particular manner.
I think the interaction was interesting because, I mean, this even, not to go back to basketball, but, you know, when we debate basketball, I find it very odd when, like, people pivot to something that has nothing to do with what we're talking about right now. And they do it, like you said, for a reaction. So I could tell he was fishing for one. And I could tell when people even speak like that to me or to anybody else, that that's what they're doing. They're fishing for some type of reaction out of you. I just don't, like, A, it's not what we're talking about. And B, there's no need for me to even, you know, fall for the bait just to validate what you're trying to say even further. Like, all right, what you said is true. I'm not debating it. No one's debating it. Like, anybody who can see, who's not blind, could see that that's factually correct. But we're not even talking about that right now. So we're talking about this. We can stay on these core fundamentals. And me personally, I find it very weird. And I also think people lose debates when they deviate off of what we're talking about to try to get like a quick win in an argument. But we were really just talking about fundamental beliefs on how certain things should be handled in terms of censoring somebody on the internet and the benefit of that could bring about it. And he was essentially insinuating that, well, at any point in time, I on a podcast, because we brought him on the podcast a few times. At any point in time on the podcast, I could have just, you know, called you fat, and I didn't want to do that because I didn't want to offend you. And I'm like, Sneeko, it doesn't really matter. I don't know why you brought that up. It doesn't have any credence to what we're talking about right now. But also, nobody doesn't really care. Like, it's fine. Like, whatever, if you want to say it, that's fine. But to the point of what we're talking about, we can get back to that point. And I think it's very important, especially for as we continue to have these conversations on the internet, that people stay focused on what we're talking about instead of getting moved off their pivot just for like social likes and social points from somebody else from the opposite viewpoint. And I also think everything can be done in a respectable manner. But I feel like if you fall for that, you lose the conversation and the argument that's trying to be had in that moment, or at least not even lose it. You get moved off your pivot and trying to figure out what you are trying to articulate yourself in this conversation. If you fall for that, then you end up losing the opportunity to articulate yourself. And I would never allow somebody to do that for me, at least. I'm not about to allow somebody to do that to me.
I agree, man. And so Sneeko, hopefully I'm saying his name right.
Yeah, you are. Yeah.
I've watched a lot of these, ever since the pandemic, you have a lot of these content creators who pop up with this manosphere type of content, relationship advice type of content. I've seen some that I felt were authentic, which I thought Kevin Samuels was a bit more authentic, even though I didn't agree with everything he said.
Mm-hmm.
There are some people that come off as more authentic. You've spoken to Sneeko. I've only listened to him, but to me, he comes off as extremely disingenuous, and I don't know how authentic his takes actually are, or if he's just trying to hop onto a wave that's popular right now. Mm-hmm. What did you, and speaking with them, in your conversations with them, did you get any particular vibe to that degree from him?
No, because I knew Sneeko. I've known Sneeko for probably a year now, or at least a year before we are right now. And Sneeko is very much so in the concept of like, if he believes something, he's going to expound in that realm as much as possible, which in some ways can be a good thing. So you can like thoroughly investigate this ideology that you may be subscribing to right now. And then if you don't follow it anymore, you have you make sure that you thoroughly don't agree with it, so you can then make the right assessment to pivot. But then in my viewpoint, there's no need for me to like go down the path of something that kind of is like irrefutably harmful or just doesn't make any sense or doesn't align with my beliefs. I don't need to go that deep into something for me to realize it's a bad thing. So I think a lot of people look at Sneeko and see what he's doing now, and they're like, yo, how like, yo, what he's saying doesn't sound right, or it sounds like he's only doing it for the likes and clicks. And I think, I mean, and to be fair, and I think it's a bit taboo to say it, but to a certain extent, all of us as entertainers and YouTubers and creators are trying to do something to generate a certain amount of views. But I genuinely believe, just speaking to Sneeko, before all of this happened, on camera and off camera, and speaking to him right now, like the way he speaks now is how he spoke a year ago. He was just speaking about maybe other things, but it was like very much so entrenched in the concept of, I'm going to go as deep as I possibly can until it doesn't make any sense to me anymore. And then after that, I'll just pivot to something else. But he's been doing that. If you watch his channel, he's been doing that for years now. Like that is kind of in his nature to do so. So I don't really think it's disingenuous at all, actually.
And see, and that's what the internet can do. That's why I love asking questions, because the internet can give you a perception of somebody that's completely different from the reality. And so, again, that's something I have to take in consideration. And, I think because we're going to be pivoting to another topic, because you talked about how some things just can't be argued. Facts can't be argued.
Yeah.
Okay. I think a fact that can't be argued is the fact that Draymond Green is a far superior player to Dennis Rodman. Don't you agree?
Oh my God, you about to have me down this road. I'm gonna be honest with you. I did a little research before I got here, because I'm being honest. I'm in the middle of editing this Ticket TV reaction video. My goodness, but all the shenanigans between him, Draymond, and LeBron is ridiculous. And I feel like you're trying to lay me up into this. Do I think Draymond Green is a superior player to Dennis Rodman? I do believe that as an individual player, I think he just provides more to the game of basketball than Dennis Rodman does. Yes, so yes, I think he's a better player.
I mean, only reason I asked, I know I don't want to dive into that, because we could go on all day. I just, because I don't know whether you watch the game visually, I feel, or whether you go look at the stats. There's no metric where you can show me Rodman is just the better player. I mean, Rodman was great.
I mean, rebounding you can.
Yeah, great. But and there's even, to me, I think there's even a cap to that, because a lot of people, you have different types of debaters. Some debaters like to prioritize the playoffs over the regular season.
Yeah,
And if you do prioritize the playoffs, if you're one of those debaters, Rodman's rebounding numbers significantly declined in the playoffs, where he only averaged about 9 rebounds a game. And while Draymond's increased up to 9 rebounds a game. So if you want to go to playoffs, like where some people say it matters most, especially when you're not a player that won MVPs or won all the regular season awards, I think that could be a good measuring stick for a player like Dennis Rodman with regards to his impact. But
I still think Rodman is a better. I think he's a better rebounder, though.
Definitely a better rebounder still.
Yeah,
but
I still think he is.
But you'll hear. As you debate more, because I've heard all the excuses in the world, man. Every excuse you could think of, and so people will say it doesn't matter if you didn't do it in the playoffs, and if your numbers go down in the playoff. And there's ways you could put context to it. I'm sure with Rodman, the game slowed down, fewer possessions that probably affected. You can always put context to it, but. Again, it's just something that you can argue. But no, I just wanted to pivot off that. I just thought it was kind of funny. And then Player's Choice. I seen you on Player's Choice with Jay Will and those guys, man.
Yeah.
Really good conversations over there. And one of the most interesting videos was the Steph Curry top 5 argument. Debate.
That was, which is absurd. Jesus, boy.
How do you feel about Steph? Because this is what I've said, and you can agree or disagree. I said Steph has done enough in his career to where he should at least have top 10 consideration.
I agree.
Not that you should just throw him in there, because it's going to be tough to just squeeze him in over some guys. But consideration, he deserves that at least. Similar to how I believe Kobe deserves top 10 consideration. I don't think he's top 3 like some people put him.
No. I don't think he's top 3. I agree. I think Curry is. I think Curry at worst, like literally at worst, should receive top 10 considerations. If people don't want to put him in there, I understand. Especially if you favor longevity, that's understandable. I get that point. The problem I have with the concept of Curry, though, not like me personally, I have the problem that I have with people perceive Curry is really 2 things. A, this idea of what a true point guard is. To me, it's like point guard is, and I understand the concept of it, but the point guard position is the only position where we have this mind state where they have to play a specific way, and if they don't play that way, then everything they do has an asterisk next to it, and then we get to then compare James Harden and Curry instead of Curry to Magic Johnson. It's it's not the same, but it's but no other position we do this with. I don't understand why people have they're completely fine with comparing Magic to Tim Duncan and saying that Magic is over Duncan or whatever they want to say, and they play completely different positions. But because Curry scores more than he passes, then all of a sudden, it's almost I can't do it. But then the second thing is I was going to say the most, but LeBron is by far the most scrutinized player, unfairly scrutinized player I've ever seen in my life. And Giannis is quickly becoming second. But the kind of comments and conversations that people have about Curry are just some of the most ridiculous and ludicrous things I've ever heard in my life from a player who aided a level of evolution and influence on the game of basketball as a whole, not just from his position, not just on his team, not just in the NBA. The game of basketball, the way we talk, think, our perception of basketball has changed drastically. And Curry played a huge role in that. The way that we speak about him, though, it's so odd to me. And the criticism that it gets leveraged towards him is very odd. And I think that there's just a lot of damage that has been done to his career that people still hang on to this day. I recently uploaded a video on my main channel about how, the way that the 2015 Finals MVP conversation was being had, and how people were just ESPN has a lower third where they are just blanketly lying about what Matthew Dellavedova did defensively against Curry, straight up lying. They were attributing 6 turnovers to Delly when he was defending Curry. And some of these turnovers, he wasn't even in the game, but they're still attributing it to him just so they can push this narrative that, he got clamped up by Delly. And I've never seen that happen to an all-time great player. And even heading into this year, people were like questioning, like, I don't know, can Curry do this and that? And I'm like, I've never, like, you would have thought Curry was like 40 years old the way they were speaking about Curry in the Warriors. And it's like, when you go back and you look at it, like I just remember the way people spoke about Kobe. Kobe was in the middle of getting swept in 2011, and people still gave him the benefit of the doubt. Kevin Durant this year was in the middle of getting swept. They still gave him the benefit of the doubt. LeBron, as much as I think he gets criticism, still is at a point where he gets the benefit of the doubt. The Warriors were on, like, everything pointed to this year being one of the best teams in the NBA, and never once where there's like this overwhelming unanimous sense that they should receive the benefit of the doubt until they actually lose. And then, like, we get to this point, and I still hear people like downplaying the Celtics team that had the #1 ranked defense in the NBA. Oh, they weren't really that good. They're really Curry. He didn't really have to face any real competition. It's like, bro, y'all gonna continue to criticize that man, even though he's like easily one of the greatest and one of the most influential ball players of all time. Like, I never understand it. So yeah, those are the two things that really bother me the most about Curry and the dialogue that we have about him.
And we got to send you some merch. See, we got some merch that says research purposes only, man. Yeah. Research. See, and you can tell. So I've heard that too. People run with this narrative that Dellavedova shut down Curry, and it's just like, I don't know if that really, that don't make. If you actually go back and watch, it don't really
add up.
It don't add up when you see some of the things, and it's a lot of things, and that's what I always tell people. YouTube is crazy. I'm amazed with how many games you can actually go back and watch full games. Like, you have the opportunity to go back and watch this. And it's just like, just do a little bit of research before you run with some of the takes. And you'll be amazed with how many times a major network like ESPN is wrong.
Yeah.
Wrong, completely wrong about a ton of things. And they run with weird narratives. So one of the last topics I want to touch on is actually something that we've extensively researched on this channel. Probably a bit more serious. But I've been kind of alarmed with how it's been covered on ESPN. I'm not necessarily surprised or alarmed, but it's amazing how major media conglomerates, especially as big as like ESPN or, Fox News, it's crazy how these big networks, with the access to information that they have, can steer a narrative about a player and hide certain information to paint a picture to basically trying to make the decision for you, as opposed to you making the decision for yourself. And I think this all kind of ties into a player, Deshaun Watson, who's been facing a lot of scrutiny, deservedly so. Mm-hmm. I mean, he put himself in a situation,
for sure.
But I think a certain picture's getting painted that's not indicative of the facts that are out there. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure how much you've researched it. I know it's football. It's obviously separate from basketball, but it's been in there. What are your thoughts on this whole situation with Deshaun Watson?
The reason why we even spoke about it on Playback is because I do want to wait until a little bit more information gets revealed. Mm-hmm. And even if you feel like I may be missing something, for sure, say something. But yeah, if at least from the a bigger picture, like, yeah, I don't understand. It's so weird to me that we live in the age of information, and that information is like readily available to people. And a lot of time people just don't take the time out to actually do the proper research. And understandably so, to an extent, it's not really their job. If you are somebody like ESPN, like a news media, that's information that you are supposed to be revealing to everyone anyway. Like, that's not something that, like, as the average viewer should know everything unless you present it to them. But we still live in an age of information where people decide what they want and don't want to consume, or what they want to go seek and what they don't want to go seek. So I do believe there's a level of responsibility that's bared on the viewership. In terms of the whole Deshaun Watson situation, like, yeah, he put himself in that situation with the massage therapist, and I understand what happened there. But like, there's there's so much evidence pointing to the fact that, like, either this is being blown way out of proportion, or maybe there was some type of mutual understanding. Like it's like there's information where it's like, even though yes, he may have put himself in that situation, but it's not as cut and dry as they're making it seem. Like not even like I don't even think it's remotely close. And I think, even from a bigger scale of things, I think this is the ongoing problem, especially when trying to hear men's side of things, especially with something that is as like very touchy when you get on these topics, and a man's life can be ruined beyond just football. Like if this stuff comes out to like really stick on him, his life beyond a football player could be ruined based off of misinformation. And it was the same thing that dealt with the Johnny Depp situation and a lot of other situations where like bits of information that is very pivotal to what we're discussing right now is being redacted or not being told correctly to paint the proper picture. But y'all are trying to show this man in a light where it's like everything isn't told. And I also think, and the final point, I think that like when we had these conversations, people don't want to be, I think, and I've learned this more and more as I've gotten, I guess, more successful, that what happens in the world of a Deshaun Watson or an athlete, a high profile athlete, somebody with some form of status and money, bro, that lifestyle that they live and the people that are surrounding them is drastically different from the average person. So there's things that may happen with them that is like y'all don't even understand. Like, so it's like, for example, like the whole Kevin Hart when he cheated on his wife thing. Like, yes, on the surface that sounds horrible, but to the average man, bro, you have no idea what it feels like to go outside and be tempted every single moment of your life. Again, not absolving him from any responsibilities, but it's not even like the same. It's not you sitting here saying, well, if it was me, I wouldn't cheat. Like, yeah, but you're not Kevin Hart. You don't know what happens in those situations. You don't know when given the opportunity what you would do and what you wouldn't do. And I think a lot of things that get talked about athletes, like everybody can sit back and be like, "Whoa, that's crazy," but you later realize a lot of things that happens with these athletes and some of these people with status is very common. It's mutually accepted on both parties. And it may sound crazy to you, but you're just not put in that situation. I think the same thing happened to the whole Derrick Rose situation too, where bits of information was removed, and luckily we got to it, so it wasn't as big as this is turning out to be. But like, I think people just need to hear all the information. That's the reason why we haven't covered it on Playback yet, because I want to make sure we hear everything before I jump out the window and accuse Deshaun Watson of what they're trying to accuse him of, because that's very damning to a man's identity.
Hey, I just tell you, because we did some research, or at least we got access to some of the depositions that were used in the grand juries, and we actually, because in the depositions they talk about some of the women's IG pages before they were deleted, and I know our channel, because we actually showed the IG pages, we got suspended from live streaming for 90 days because of it.
Jeez.
Because of women who, I think somebody from that team did not like, because it showcased, I think our summary of that situation with Deshaun Watson is, I think he's a sex addict.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's addicted, because that's his arrangement with these women. That's what the information presented to the grand jury, that's what it looked like. Mm-hmm. And again, this is the information that, again, ESPN won't talk about. They're not going to show the women's IG pages. I mean, if you're wearing next to nothing, sitting on a massage table saying DM me for an appointment, well, we all can presume what that appointment's going to be about. Exactly. It's probably not, we're not dumb. I mean, there have been multiple women who've done exposed videos about this. We see the Trey Songz situation where the woman came out and said, the attorney offered me $200K to lie. Yeah. So it's just, so there's so many things that complicate the situation that you have to take into consideration. I'm not going to be one of those to just completely bash Deshaun for being in this situation, because it's just like what you said. The life of some of these pro athletes and entertainers is completely different from our lives. And the things that they see and deal with or have access to on a daily basis don't come close to what we, and again, imagine if one of us would happen to be that mega billion-dollar winner, our lives would have changed too, and a lot of opportunities. And so again, I think you have to take that in consideration, especially when you're talking about a player like Deshaun Watson, man.
And when it's in, I just want because I think the other problem is like you said, it's almost as if like the audacity of you even highlighting what those women may or may not have been doing. It's like, bro, but that's a part of the conversation, because at the end of the day, if it's consensual on both parties, then I don't understand why it's even as big as a deal as y'all making it out to be. If we want to sit here and reprimand Deshaun Watson for having some form of restraint and discipline with how he exercises himself sexually, understandable. But to act as if like, and this is where like it's just, I think the unfair balance, especially as a man on the internet, it feels this way, especially the way things are being covered. To act as if like that doesn't happen with women as well, or to act as if like that's not happening, or at least being pushed upon men, and us men are the only parties that have to have some type of restraint, I think it's very irresponsible rhetoric, and I think it's very disingenuous on top of that, especially when you know for a fact that it's not being that criticism is not being levied the other way. It's almost like you're just being set up to fail.
Yeah, no, I mean, I was listening to I listened to him talk about it on ESPN. Molly Karam's just going in saying and I'm saying, and I heard Molly talking about it, and I'm saying, I think one of the biggest indicators that this just wasn't your typical massage was out of 20 of the 24 cases, at least the ones that were in the lawsuit, he met them at hotels.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just like, with you and your status, obviously you're blowing up right now. If you have an appointment with a female at a hotel, I can, if you tell agent, are you going to tell agent, I'm going here to get a massage at this hotel, at the Ritz-Carlton, with this, he's going to laugh at you,
Yeah.
And so we all know as adults, we know whenever that happens, there's some type of an arrangement. Could the arrangements possibly went wrong and someone was upset with payment or yes, I understand that, because there were some women, if you read the depositions, who were mad because he didn't pay them as much as they thought they would receive. And it's clearly written in these depositions. And so, I mean, I could share that information with you. I mean, if you want to send it over to you want to check it out.
Yeah, you can if you send it, I don't know, on here on my email.
I'll get your email. I'll send it to you there. But you'd be amazed as listening to it. It's a crazy scenario. But you know what, man? I definitely appreciate you for pulling up, man, the FYF Sports, man.
Can I ask you a question real quick? Can I ask you a question? No, it's actually just content debating, because I think I look at other spaces, and I think one of the privileges and benefits of like being more involved in other aspects of the internet is that you can kind of take what's working here and try to apply it somewhere else. And the reason why I gravitate to, because I think people know I've been on your channel before, and then also Player's Choice, is that I think YouTube is like getting to this point, and I think streaming in general, even on Twitch, where it's being way more communicative than it was before, where like people like kind of gathering together and congregating and having these open dialogues. And I think that is like the new wave of conversations. And we know for a fact when it comes to sports, like debating one another on an open forum definitely works, because like ESPN has been eating off that for years. Do you think like that is like the next position of content that needs to be consumed sports wise on YouTube or on the internet? Because it definitely feels like that is just waiting for like one or two people to kind of like pop in that direction.
I'm kind of split down the middle on it.
Okay.
And I'm gonna tell you why. I believe that it's getting extremely popular. It's definitely getting extremely popular, especially amongst the sports junkies like we are. I think here's the problem, and I could be wrong based on my research. I think the problem comes in with live streaming. And so the live streaming on YouTube, I mean, it probably works better on other platforms, but on YouTube per se, the one thing that I've noticed is, at least with my channel, my main channel, live streaming actually hurt my growth.
Yeah. Okay.
And it stunted my growth. And so since May of this year, on my main channel, I just completely stopped going live, and I just focus on all uploads, uploading content, creating videos. Sometimes I'll pre-record stuff and do it as a premiere so the chat can still congregate there and talk. But the problem is when you just live streaming, it almost seems like the algorithm punishes you by not giving you as many recommendations and things of that nature. So then now you're at a divide. Do you continue to live stream? Because again, those sports junkies are always going to come back to have all those debates and conversations. But you will have that noticeable stunted growth because your channel won't grow as much. Or do you resort to doing other types of content as far as the uploads and things of that nature that give you the better growth? So I think you kind of have to choose. So that's why I created a separate channel just for live streams, FYF Sports Live. And then I have my main channel for my uploads and video premieres, because I did start to notice that. And I even heard the same thing from another content creator who's over 100K. He said he noticed that as well. So I think you kind of have to choose. And YouTube's kind of making you choose what type of creator you're going to be. They're not allowing you to be one or the other. So I love the debate formats. When you have people on the way I think Players Choice, I mean, they killing the game with the way they doing it. I thought how he's doing it, and the NBA players on, bring ticket in, and it doesn't get too crazy. I think that's a lane that, again, untapped. And as we both know, it's a concept that ESPN these major networks will steal it.
Yeah, yeah.
So if one of us don't turn it into something major, they definitely will. They definitely are good for taking those concepts. But, I just think it's about just finding a lane and a niche.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's just about finding a lane and a niche and just kind of moving forward in it.
Okay. All right. Cool.
That's about it, man.
I was wondering that.
So, yeah, I mean, I love doing this, though. I mean, I never thought my channel would get to 40K. So now I got to set my eyes on a bigger number once you're there. And just kind of go from there, man.
I just want to know, because I've thought about it. I think I agree with you, though. I think that there's live content consumers, and then there's people who do the clips. And I've always wanted to know, if I could just go live and do a bunch of debates and then clip it up and probably put it on the channel, how would that look like? But yeah, for sure. I think I don't know. It's interesting because that content to me seems so enticing, because I know how much more easier it is to kind of just feed off of somebody else and have a back and forth debate, rather than trying to start from scratch as an individual. I just know for a fact it's easier to do. But I just want to at least know hear
it's like endless content when you can have these type of debates, because when you have these type of debates, it's endless, because you're not going to change their mind regardless of how right you are. They're probably not going to change your mind. And so you can always, with the LeBron Jordan debate, you can literally have that debate every single day.
Yeah.
Every single day. And people are going to come back just to repeat the same things that they said. They might say it in a different way, in a different tone. And that's what I'm saying. It's an endless sports debate. And we're crazy enough to come back and do the same debates over and over again. That's how crazy we are in this, man. So
for sure.
I love it though, man. I love what I'm doing. Hey, I appreciate you coming on, man. I love what you're doing with your channels, multiple platforms, man. I want to see you keep growing.
Of course.
Hopefully, I mean, maybe one day I might pull up over there at Players Choice one of these days, man, and go ahead and ether a few people. But
hey man, I ain't gonna lie, y'all are hilarious, man. And what's crazy is when I was going down the whole rabbit hole with you and Ticket TV, man, I'm like, this has been going on for years. I didn't know this is a ongoing thing that y'all had going on, the whole ethering each other. And I'm like, man, what the hell is going on, bro? But I do thank you though for giving me the platform though, man. I was looking, I was like, damn. Geez.
Yeah, I try to. I've always. Whenever I have a back and forth with somebody, I always try to turn it into something comical, funny edits and stuff like that. Other people like Ticket, he likes to have the more serious street approach, which makes it even funnier to me. It makes me want to, because it's just YouTube. So, that entices me more. I think the best thing to do with me is just to probably not respond, or don't give me more content to use. Because, man, I don't know, man. I just try to turn it into something I can laugh at, man. I try not to stress over this YouTube stuff at all, man.
For sure. But I do thank you, man, for giving me the opportunity and the platform, man. And hopefully everybody in the community continue to grow. I think there's definitely way more room to grow in this space, especially on YouTube. For maybe you asked me a year or two ago, I would not have said no, but I've seen a lot of really great content creators pop up. in the past like year. And I'm like, yo, all right, like there's a different lane, there's a different way to approach the content. It may just be evolving, and I got to get on top of that as it evolves. But for sure, thank you though for giving me the platform.
Yes, sir, man. Hey, well, I'm gonna be in touch, man. I'm gonna shoot you that information on Deshaun Watson. Hopefully, we can get you on one of our live streams. Hopefully, on our new live channel that we're trying to grow and build up. But hopefully, we can get you over there
for sure.
For one of the debates. I always got to try to come up with some type of clickbait topic. I think you remember the video I did a while back. What did I say?
Was it the Kobe not top 10? It was one that I was like, God.
I said something crazy. It was mostly clickbait. I think somebody sent it to you on
Jordan.
Twitter.
It was Jordan.
Something with Jordan.
Yeah,
I said Jordan was. I said Jordan. I said DeMar DeRozan was Jordan 2.0.
Yeah, that's what you said. And I was like, all right, come on, what are we doing, dog? Yeah, I think somebody did send it to me on Twitter, and they were like, come look at this guy. And I was like, all right. Which is so odd. I feel like I'm like becoming the basketball Avenger on YouTube. People send me stuff like, "Hey, yo, come correct him real quick because he crazy." Yeah.
Look. Some of this stuff I tell people don't take my title seriously. Watch the video. Never take my title seriously because I'm gonna say Steph Curry. I got Steph Curry better than Magic. I mean, I got a lot of different things out there. Which actually, now that I think about it, the Steph Curry better than Magic thing is probably not as crazy as I initially thought it would be.
Oh man,
it's not. That's a debate that needs to be had. You don't think it's?
I guess it depends on what you value, but I differentiate better and greater. Like I think Magic is like kind of undeniably a greater player.
So I would ask you this then, before we get up out of here.
Okay.
How many things on a basketball court do you say Magic is definitively better than Steph Curry at? Outside of passing.
I would say I would have to say like passing and playmaking, but rebounding. But I mean, he's supposed to be because he's taller than him. I think Curry's a very underrated rebounder too.
Yeah, I give you that.
But I mean, I guess rebounding. But outside of that, yeah, not much after that. I actually think Curry's an underrated defender too. Especially
he is an underrated defender, especially last. That's what nobody talked about last year. Last year was ridiculous how much he improved defensively, and he got zero credit for it whatsoever.
Zero.
I think top 30 in the defensive rating, much improved, and it showed on the court. You see the stops in the playoffs against Ja Morant and Tatum and those guys.
I think all last year got derailed by injuries because him and Draymond before Klay came back, I was like, bro, like that team was looking amazing.
That's why I didn't know why anybody, when Ticket was saying, what did Draymond do without Klay? Nobody talked about last year.
I didn't understand it either, but I think maybe the sample size is too small for anybody to bring it up. But like, before Draymond and Curry got hurt, bro, they were like number one best defense. They were number one ranked defense, and it was by a mile. Yeah. Curry and them were like operating on a string defensively. Wiggins was also really great defensively at the top of the year. And then Curry was like, before he started slumping, I was like, bro, like this team is looking like they could legit. And ironically enough, I actually made a video before the season began. I was like, bro, now the Warriors, now they nice. Like, let's not like don't downplay who the Warriors are and what they're gonna do. But yeah, people just, I don't know. I think it's like the same thing. I don't know. We're going on, but it's like the same thing with the Kawhi thing where, and me and you agree on this, like people conflate what Kawhi was doing in 2016 and act like he's saying he's defending the same way right now. And I'm like, yeah, he's not. And then they do the same thing with Curry. Like Curry in 2014 objectively is a worse defender than he is right now. But you should at least identify that he's progressed as a defender and stop acting as if like he's doing 2014 defensive efforts right now, because he's clearly not. He's clearly a better defender.
We'll sit down. We'll stay in front of you. And you know what? Like my coach, she would tell me, it's not about you getting a stop every time. It's about you putting up enough resistance to where the help defense can actually do their job. And we saw how, if you go look at how the Utah Jazz, look at those guards and how they always put Rudy Gobert in a situation where he's having to contest super athletic guards at the rim every time because they're getting blown by with no resistance. So I think that's what Steph Curry worked on. How can I be stronger? Guys can't run through me, get past me so easily. And that help can always be there with Wiggins and Draymond. Once you start to understand that, just like we talked about in the beginning, understanding the game, learning it in a certain way, you don't have to feel like you have to be Superman and do everything, but just do your part. And I think that's what all the Warriors excel in, just doing their part.
Yeah, man. Yeah, for sure.
We're going to let you go, man. Salute, man. Appreciate it. We got Legend of Winning here, man. Growing YouTuber, man. Blowing up all over the place. Make sure you check out all his channels. You got the Peer-to-Peer podcast. You got Playback. You got his own channel, Legend of Winning. Go follow him. In the description of this video, I'm going to put all of his links to his social media, Instagram, Twitter. So make sure you guys go follow him, man. Support, man. And then if you do see him on Player's Choice or our podcast, definitely give him a shout out, man. You got anything on the way out?
Nah, much love. I thank you for it. Again, the platform, and we'll see y'all later, man.
All right, man. Appreciate it.
Peace.
Really, mate.